20% of tax. It is the only country I know of which is one flat tax rate, regardless of your wealth, regardless of anything at all. That's assuming they put a true record for their wealth. You see, the whole apparatus needs a massive change. And there is a massive desire for a change in Egypt, transparency. But it is about literally demolishing the whole concept is that you improve in society because you please the guys above you, rather than seek the approval of the people below you. You need to constantly be representative democracy and the capability to monitor that by civil societies, by true free press. I mean, there is all sorts of aspects, even about free press. Sometimes some of the newspapers' editors would attack somebody till they get some money, and then they stop attacking them, and so on. So you need a different system, a system based on openness, transparency, and a massive power for civil society. You also have asked about why did the West turn a blind eye? Because after all, the Egyptian government was doing their bidding. They're bidding in the area in every aspect, whether that to do with Israel, whether that to do with other Arab states. And as long as Egypt was creating that, between quotation, stability in the area, there was no reason to disturb the boat.
Indeed.
What really I hope they're starting to realize is the fact, actually, that by continuing oppressing the people, you have a total upheaval which is affecting the rest of the Arab world. And democracy is not only about transparency, what really creates a real peace. Because if people debate the concepts and the different articles, then they will be able to accept one policy or another.
This certainly is an issue which warrants far more discussions, but I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks to our guests. Thank you very much for joining us. In Berlin, we have Arwa Hassan. In Dubai, Ibrahim Kayat. And in London, Hussam Abdullah. Thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We, of course, welcome your comments and suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Goodbye for now.
Opposition leaders hold talks with the Mubarak government, but with protesters refusing to leave Tahrir Square, have Mubarak's concessions done anything to accelerate a change and bring about the orderly transition of power Western governments talk about?
Egyptian people want freedom.
Egypt's dilemma, an Al Jazeera news special.
On the next Riz Khan show, we discuss the fear of regional contagion as leaders in Syria, Jordan and Yemen make preemptive changes to avoid similar uprisings. Riz Khan, at this time on Al Jazeera.
The people who make international headlines.
They want to stop this publication of information that embarrasses them.
Make time for Frost Over the World on Al Jazeera.
Home to a diversity of rare species, Latvia's pristine woodlands are a place of magic. But with a strained economy and an eager market, forests are rapidly perishing, and with them their inhabitants. People and Power investigates how 60% of Latvia's timber ends up on UK shelves with a questionable seal of approval. Latvia's pulp fiction, at this time on Al Jazeera.
There's no honorable way to kill. No gentle way to destroy. There is nothing good in war, except its ending.
not giving up. These are live pictures as the pro-democracy camp stand firm in Cairo's Liberation Square as they prepare for a mass march on Tuesday. The release of a leading activist could reignite a movement that's now over 2 weeks old. Hello and welcome to Al Jazeera, live from Doha. I'm Veronica Pedrosa. Plus, 6 years in the making. Now it's official. South Sudan will break away from the north. A new report shows the former British government threw its weight behind the man convicted of the 1988 Lockerbie bombing. And why America's faded internet giant hopes a $300 million deal will turn around its fortunes. Welcome to the program. It's just gone 3 a.m. in Egypt, where pro-democracy demonstrators have been camping out in the cold. They're calling for another mass rally later on Tuesday. These are live pictures from Cairo's Liberation or Tahrir Square. Hundreds have died in nearly 2 weeks of unrest. But on Monday, the country's embattled president met his new cabinet and, in a bid to win over some of those protesting, decided to give a salary hike to government employees. Rosalind Jordan reports.
Another chilling night in Tahrir Square. Thousands of demonstrators ignored the overnight curfew as they kept up their fight to remove Hosni Mubarak as president of Egypt. Surrounded by soldiers, tanks, and barbed wire, the protesters rallied each other with songs of defiance. Meantime, state television showed the 82-year-old leader in a meeting with members of his new cabinet. The message: Mubarak isn't going anywhere until his term ends in September. In a bid to peel off sympathy for the protesters, Mubarak announced nearly $1 billion in pay hikes for government workers, long a key part of his political base. Cairo itself tried another day of normal routines. Shops and banks and cafes opened for business. But so far, it's not back to normal for Egypt's famous tourist attractions, key to the country's economic health. It's frustrating businessmen and travelers alike.
This has been a dream of mine ever since I was a child, to come in here and to see the pyramids and to get this close and to be shot for no reason. They could open the gates right now. We could all go in. Nothing would happen except for Egypt would make some desperately needed money.
The protest led to the closure of the entire area. Guests aren't coming here, either to the hotels or to the pyramids. The entire area is closed. There's no more business. This has destroyed the entire country.
Perhaps even more devastating, Human Rights Watch says nearly 300 people have been killed so far during the uprising. The pall of insecurity hangs over the country. Private tennis clubs are still packed, but for millions of ordinary Egyptians, professional football matches have been canceled until further notice. Another casualty in what many are calling a time of revolution. Rosalind Jordan, Al Jazeera.
Meanwhile, a leading activist who's been held in custody for almost 2 weeks has now been released. He says he was behind the Facebook page which played a major role in the uprising. Wael Ghonim, who's also a senior Google executive, was freed on Monday. This video, uploaded to YouTube, claims to show the moment he was captured on January the 28th.
First of all, I send my condolences to all the people who were killed. It was a peaceful revolution. We didn't want to do any damage. Don't focus your cameras on me. I'm not a hero. The real heroes are the youth who are behind this revolution. By God's will, we're going to clean this country of this rubbish.
All right, so let's speak to our reporter in Cairo now. We're not naming him for his own safety, and I want to know what is going to be the impact on the protesters of the release of this leading activist.
The potential impact from his release could be huge. I mean, this interview was given on a private TV station with an estimated viewership of around 30 million people. Some of the things he said were very telling, but he's galvanized a lot of support here, and the reaction certainly amongst the protesters that I've spoken to since his release is phenomenal. I mean, furthering in that interview, he says that, you know, he's not a symbol and he didn't want to be a symbol, but he's got very little choice in this. It's almost like his position has been has been taken on by these protesters as being a serious figurehead. He described the 12 days of his kidnappings as a crime which we are fighting. I mean, interestingly, he didn't mention Mubarak stepping down. In fact, he didn't mention his name once in the interview. But I think what's fascinating is that on the back of his interview, we had a former state TV presenter stand up and basically say that she was trying to get involved